Thank you. Oh, I tell you, it's going to be rough up here after following Gabriel and Rachel. So I would say we've already had church. We're doing church. Let's go downstairs and get coffee. So this week, I'd like to take up where we were a couple weeks ago with the history of unity. So I would like to welcome friends, members, and guests. To our guests, I say welcome, and welcome metaphysicians to Unity of Fort Wayne Spiritual Center. And I trust with all my heart that you will find this a place of where you feel welcome and that your questions are welcome. Bring your questions. I'm Reverend Wanda, and I serve as spiritual leader under the Special Dispensation Program of Unity Worldwide Ministries. And I know you're tired of hearing that, but I am supposed to say it. And to those of you who wonder what unity is all about, unity is a positive, practical, progressive approach to Christianity based on the teachings of Jesus of Nazareth, revealed and interpreted by the Christ Spirit within each of us. We practice affirmative prayer, which is the conscious communion with God. It is our union of our human consciousness with the Father, Mother within, and the wisdom of the teachings of Charles and Myrtle Fillmore and other early unity teachers. We are a community who encourage and support one another in the process of spiritual development and growth, overcoming adversity, and learning to live a consistent and fully expressed Christ-like life. So let's take a moment to welcome the abiding Spirit. Just take a deep breath in and welcome the Spirit that abides in this place and within each of us. Knowing that Christ dwells within each of us and within everyone in this room, you may welcome your neighbor. Just say howdy. Send blessings throughout. Okay, so we begin by centering ourselves in Eric Butterworth's interpretation of the Lord's Prayer. I am now conscious of the infinite and eternal presence in whom I love and by which I think and create. This presence in me is whole and complete. It is the activity of health that heals, of intelligence that inspires, of substance that prospers, and of love that harmonizes. I am God's glorious possibility, and I now let His perfect idea of me enfold in me and through me. My desire for betterment is God's desire to perfect that which He is expressing as me, and I intend to let her have her way, seeing myself as doing that which He sees me doing and being. I have no existence outside of God's presence, for I am that presence. Therefore, I can never be separated from the all-sufficient substance of the opulent universe. I now claim my divine inheritance, and I daily, perpetually manifest abundant supply. The presence in me is my potential for dissolving all conflicts of transgression. The presence is love, and it loves in me and through me as love. It forgives in me and through me as I forgive. It releases me as I loosen and let go of all my limited thoughts about myself and about others. The presence in me is my light and my deliverance. There is no darkness in the light, and there can be no darkness in me when I am established in spiritual unity with the presence within, which is better than light and safer than the known way. In all that I seek to be or to do or to have, I humbly recognize that in the presence is thy own power to think, my very aspirations, my will to commence, my strength to keep on, my power to achieve, and the glory of my accomplishment. This is the truth. It is now done, and so it is. In my most recent message, I shared a brief account of the history of our spiritual movement, whose roots are found in New Thought, which began really in the 19th century, whose roots in part was influenced by Transcendentalism, Ralph Waldo Emerson, and Thomas Toward, whose roots are, briefly and broadly speaking, found in Hinduism, Buddhism, and the Greek philosopher Plato, along with a few other old guys. That's one side of our historical tree. And the other, we will find Phineas Quimby. How many have ever heard of Phil Phineas before? Okay. Phineas Quimby, the Dresser family, and the teachings of Jesus Christ, broadly and briefly speaking. It began to come together in the mid-19th century with Irma Curtis Hopkins, known as the teacher of teachers, and I like to think of her as the trunk of our historical unity tree, the place where it all comes together. In a way, we could consider her the influencer, the influencer or the equivalent of Charles Wesley, who founded the Methodist Church, Martin Luther of the Lutheran Church, or George Fox of the Quakers. If religious scholars name Phineas Quimby as the founder of New Thought, then Hopkins is our mother and prime teacher. Her teachings continue to evolve with Emily Cady, Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, who founded Unity, Nona Brooks, and Melinda Kramer, who co-founded Divine Science, and Ernest Holmes, who founded Religious Science. It was also during this time that Mary Baker Eddy founded Christian Science, that movement is a totally separate branch of the New Thought. We are, in the broadest terms, New Thought is a family of unity, Christian Science, and religious science, although we are distant related cousins. So how are we related? So this is a lot of information that I've kind of put together, most of it from Wikipedia, okay? So now you guys know that I'm not just, stealing information here. Unity describes itself as a global, inclusive spiritual community, offering practical tools and uplifting resources to help people of all faiths. Fillmore's never intended for this to be a separate movement. Of all faiths, apply positive spiritual principles in their daily lives. Unity describes itself as having no particular creed, no set dogma, or required rituals. And that is one of the reasons why I would like to teach a little bit about unity, because there is a real conversation going on within the movement about what is exactly unity. What do we stand for? In the last 40 or 50 years, there's been a real movement towards interfaith. But I would argue that unity has always been interfaith. But our founders, our teachers, are the Fillmores. So some people might be confused about who they are. I'm telling you, I'm not. I know exactly who I am, okay? I know what this community is. It maintains that there is good in every approach to God and holds that one should focus on the potential good in all, that the very essence of human is divine, regardless of current behavior. Unity emphasizes healing by spiritual means, but does not reject or resist medical treatments. Unity is the largest group connected with the New Thought movement. I don't know if you guys knew that, but we have grown to be the largest family in the New Thought movement and the only one to maintain a significant Christian identity. Unity views God as spiritual energy that is everywhere present, available to all people. And according to our co-founder, Charles F. Fillmore, God is not a person who has set creation in motion and gone away and left it to run down like a clock. God is spirit, infinite mind, and immanent force and intelligence manifested everywhere in nature. God is the silent voice that speaks into visibility all that is. Unity teaches the divinity of Jesus and of all human beings. Jesus is the great example and not the exception. He is our elder brother, our way shower, who has demonstrated what is possible when we live from our innate spiritual nature or divine consciousness. Unity teaches that all people are individual, eternal expressions of God, and their essential nature is divine, and therefore we are inherently good. The Fillmores interpreted the Bible as a metaphysical representation of each soul's evolutionary journey towards spiritual awakening. That the Bible, the entire Hebrew scriptures and what is known as the New Scriptures, metaphysically is the story of the evolution of human consciousness. The Bible is unity's primary spiritual resource. It is a complex collection of writings compiled over many, many centuries, and it reflects the comprehension and inspiration of the writers and their times. Affirmative prayer is understood in unity as the highest form of created thought. It includes the release of negative thought and holding in mind statements of spiritual truth. Unity teaches the use of meditation and affirmative prayer as a way to experience God, heighten the awareness of truth, and therefore transform a person's life. Prayer is believed to be valuable not because it alters the circumstances and conditions of our lives, but because it alters the person. Unity emphasizes the agreements and not the differences with traditional Christians, and stresses its concurrence with the teachings of Jesus and the influence of the Holy Spirit and the Bible. Christian Science, or Church of the Divine Science, was co-founded by Melinda Kramer and Nona Brooks, both who were also influenced by Phineas Quimby and Hopkins. Divine Science defines itself as an organized teaching pertaining to God and the manifestation of God in creation. It holds that its foundational truth is that limitless being, God, is good and equally present everywhere and the all of everything. It defines God as pure spirit, absolute, changeless, eternal, manifesting in and as creation, yet also transcending creation. And that evil is therefore neither necessary or permanent, and has no reality within itself, but has existence only as long as human beings support it by believing in it. Now, I will tell you, as a spiritual student, I have struggled with the meaning of evil. I know that many people believe that evil, Satan, you know, what all the many, Lucifer, all the names, is truly a spiritual entity and exists on the earth. And I have never felt that, but right here is the best description I have ever read. Evil is therefore neither necessary nor permanent, and has no reality within itself, but has existence only as long as human beings support it by believing in it. Now, that is not a unity teaching, that is divine science, okay? Nona Brooks stated, the whole of divine science is the practice of the presence of God, just practicing the presence of God. Truth comes through the Bible, affirmative prayer, contemplation. They speak more of contemplation than what unity does. Meditation and the practice, I love this, and the practice of God here and now. Today, divine science has few on-site churches. It is a dying movement, but it continues with an online and an email presence. So you'll probably find few practitioners of divine science. The religious science movement, or science of mind, was established by Ernest Holmes. Now, I know many of you are familiar with Ernest Holmes, who stated religious science is a correlation of laws of science. Now we're starting to introduce science, okay? I mean, actually talking about science. The opinions of philosophy and revelations in religion applied to human needs and the aspirations of man. He also stated that religious science, which is now science of mind, is not based on any authority of established beliefs, but rather what it can accomplish for the people who practice it. The International Centers of Spiritual Living and the United Centers of Spiritual Living combined into the Center for Spiritual Living in 2011. And if you hang out very much with the larger unity movement, you'll hear a lot about Ernest Holmes and Center for Spiritual Living. Holmes was especially influenced by Hopkins and her scientific Christian mental practice, which became a direct precursor to his spiritual mind treatment, a step-by-step process in which one states the desired outcome as if it had already happened. You state the desired outcome as if it already happened. This prayer treatment is believed to set off a new chain of causation in the mind that leads to one to act accordingly for which one is treating. That's just a little bit different than Unity's 5 steps of prayer. Currently, it is taught as recognition, unification, declaration, thanksgiving, and release. Divine science generally incorporates idealistic and pantheistic philosophies and teaches that all beings are expression of and part of the infinite intelligence. That's along with unity, also known as spirit, Christ consciousness, or God. Now that is pretty much in alignment with unity. It teaches that because God is all there is in the universe, its power can be influenced by humans to the extent that they recognize and align themselves with presence, which is just the opposite of what divine science taught, okay? Holmes was often criticized And I have heard this today. I have heard people within the unity movement, and we're going to talk a little bit about more that divine science focuses little on love. You won't read a lot of emphasis on love in his work. And I would guess that a considerable percentage of my peers in special dispensation were ordained in divine science and are now teaching in unity centers. In special dispensation, I would say the greatest members in that have come from, divine science, the biggest percentage. And many of them have moved to unity because they have felt like there has been a lack of focus on love and divine science. Some say that today, A Course in Miracles might be considered the newest addition to New Thought. Other thinks that the Course might be more New Age. The jury's still out on that. Perhaps sometime in the future we will talk about how the Course aligns with unity teachings and how they're different. And before we move on to meditation, I would like to share that we cannot underestimate the influence of Irma Curtis Hopkins in the formation of unity religious science or divine science. She's been more influenced than any other teacher. She has also become an important feminist figure for women in the ministry, a rarity at the time because she did ordain women. And despite her influence and all of her work, according to modern scholars, Hopkins has become, in the last 40 years or so, largely forgotten. And that's why I talk about her today. And certainly within the mainstream religious community, she has been forgotten. So today I honor her and all of my teachers who have influenced and helped me along the way. To them I say, thank you. And so for meditation today, I invite you to close your eyes or soften your gaze and settle into your breath. Just settle into your breath. Just take a moment and just breathe. If you desire, place one hand on your belly and one hand on your heart and feel the breath moving in and out of your body. And as your hand is on your heart, can you feel the beat of life? Can you feel life within you? Draw the breath in through your nose and inhale deeply. Feel the breath. Feel the breath as it moves through down your arms and your legs. And as you breathe in and out, bring to your mind someone who has influenced your life. Perhaps a parent, a caregiver or guardian, a prayer partner, a teacher, a neighbor, an aunt, an uncle, a dear friend. And as you recall these people, bring to mind the teachers who have challenged you. And as you bring each one to mind, know that they are a part of you. And as you continue to breathe, breathe in love, breathe out gratitude. Thanking each of your teachers. We are one. And just breathe in a normal pattern. And as you breathe in and breathe out, surrender to the breath. You should feel at ease and calm, safe and secure. When you are ready, as you continue to breathe, open your eyes slowly and bring your awareness back into this time and space. As I have said many times in the past, I really enjoyed going to Sunday school when I was a kid, and I have found out that I was probably the exception. You know, woohoo, Sunday school. And I think about that. I think about especially all the women. You know, it is predominantly women who are with the children. And I think about all those women and how they've influenced my life. It's amazing. It is amazing. The pastor's wife, her name was Mary Goodson, and we would sing down in junior church, and man, she could really get into it. You know? She did the motions and the expressions, and she wasn't afraid just to let it out, you know. And I wonder now where all that courage comes from. Because I think about all the, you know, Chris, how you can get up here, and Gabriel, how you can just like, oh my gosh, I couldn't even lead songs, you know, because of self-consciousness. But what an influence she was. And I would say, you know, she instilled in me a love for music. And I'm so thankful for that. Then when I was in my early teens, especially when I was around 14, 15, 16, and that really is a pivotal time in a child's life, 13, 14, 15, 16. And I felt the call at the age of 14. But at that time, I had a Sunday school teacher, and she was our youth leader. Her name was Arabella Hamlin. And believe it or not, at that time, I was in Pilgrim Holiness Church. Now, I don't know if you guys know much about Pilgrim Holiness, but they are about as, how can I say it? They're not, let's just say they're enthusiastic worshipers, okay? And she's just a really big influence in my life, but I left that church. As much as I loved my youth group, I left that church because, you know, you have to have a conversion experience. You have to confess how, you know, You have to be saved, confess all your sins. Then you have to be baptized. So I was baptized. Now, I really wanted to do that, so this isn't a problem. And baptism to me today isn't about removal of sin. It's about transformation. So I have no problem with baptism seen in that light. It's symbolic of a deep transformation. But then I had to be sanctified. And that's when it dawned on me, I was never going to fit into that church. I was never going to fit in because every time I did something, I still wasn't good enough. I had to do the next step. Then there was a next step and a next step. So even at the age of 16, I learned this isn't right for me. But I never lost contact with my Sunday school teacher, Arabelle Hamlin. I never lost contact with her. And when she was quite elderly, she kept calling me and saying, I have got to speak to you. I've got to speak to you. I've got to speak to you. So she had since moved to the state of Ohio. So I drove, and this was before GPS. I don't know how I got to her place. But I drove all by myself to see her because I could tell it was important to her. And during this meeting, she apologized to me for that. Because she realized now how she had put limitations on all of us. And everybody does the best they can. It was easy, everybody does the best that they can at that time. And I hope and pray my children and you as well will forgive me for the mistakes and the missteps that I take in my spiritual journey. I've had to apologize, the same apology to my own kids, but I did the best I could. One thing she told me that I hold true, and I don't know if it is. In her, as she got quite elderly and she couldn't do a lot, she's always been a prayer partner, always. All my life a prayer partner. If I had a problem, I could call Arabelle and say, hey, this was going. She thought I was in a cult, but she still prayed with me. And she told me, she goes, I can't do a lot. So she goes, I'm building up prayers for 9 people. I've got 9 people on my prayer list, and I'm saving prayers for these 9 people so that when I'm gone, they're going to have a lot of prayers around them. And that was the end of her life mission. And I think how glorious that is. At the end of your life, my purpose is I'm going to store up prayers for those I love. And that's what she did. And I believe it because she was a real person of prayer. She never shared with me who these 9 people were, but I would like to think I was one of them. I do. Because I know she loved me. I know she loved me. So never underestimate the power of your presence. Never underestimate it. Because you never know who you influence and who they in turn will influence. So I am grateful for our Unity family tree. I am grateful for Hopkins. I am grateful for the Fillmores. I am grateful for Curtis. And I am grateful for many of you today. All of you, your teachings have enriched my life. And I thank you. So I thank you for your time and attention, and I leave you with this blessing. May your light shine as you discover your divine purpose. And may your light shine so that it lights the way for others to find theirs. Thank you.